We'll get started here in a second or two. Seeing if anyone else is jumping on before 7:30. Okay, we'll get started. Others can jump in when they need to. That's fine, no problem. Um, this one's going to be a little bit more. We're going to focus, as I sent the email yesterday, on the next 2 weeks, the taper that we're doing, how you want to prepare for this race somewhat. And then, we won't get into race day too much at this point. We're going to have one more Zoom meeting on the 21st. If you didn't remember that, if you forgot that email I sent, I said we'll do on the 21st. That might be, let me check my calendar. I think that's a Wednesday. The reason why it's it's a Wednesday. It's a little different because I wanted to have one last meeting before the actual race, just after the last hard workout too. Because remember the last week, I'd like you to switch to Monday, Wednesday on the hard workouts, because that'll give you that one extra day before the race. So that way you do the last little workout, and they're not going to be really that hard comparatively to what we've been doing. But you see the last week, even on, if I just go quickly to the marathon calendar, marathon plan, you can see like the last week, I have them on Tuesday, Thursday still because of the cells of the spreadsheet. I move them around and that makes it too complicated. But the last week we are going to do Monday, Wednesday, not Tuesday, Thursday. So what we will do is that this track drill here, 60 seconds, and I'll explain that when we get to it in the last week, and what you would do. It's not as hard as it would look like. It's not hard at all, actually. It's a nice, quick workout. But anyway, that will be something we do on Wednesday, and then Monday would be this little tempo run here on the 19th, okay? And so that would give you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days of just some light running, resting the legs up, getting ready for everything that's coming your way on Sunday. Okay, whether it's a half or a full, they're both taxing races, so we're going to do that with everybody. So that'll just be a reminder there. And if I didn't put Monday, Wednesday on the Training Tilt calendar, if I don't have your workouts on those days, I'll probably go in and move them over just for everybody, just to kind of give you a reminder. So you're going to start this week off, and I have the marathon plan up right now, but we're doing our normal workouts Tuesday, Thursday. Now that we're getting close to the end, you're not going to be taking as much time for these workouts, or not, having to invest a lot of, your day into it if you were doing that before. So like the 12 by 400s, that's both for the half and the full. Open pace is doing 10 by 400s, but you're going to do them a little slower at more of an interval type pace with just a minute rest. Because we're still working on your conditioning even up until we get to race for a lot of our beginners, and a lot of our newer people, and a lot of our people who don't do high mileage. We can't cut back too much mileage, because then your overall fitness suffers. So for the open pace, low mileage, whatever what people call that plan, this one we're going to obviously see. I still even have a 60-minute run this week for you, because we want to keep the fitness up. We cannot cut too much off of your plan, because we're not giving you too much in the first place, because we want you to get to the line healthy, finish the race, and that's the goal. Once you get one half marathon under your belt, or if this is your second or third, then if your times are getting better, then we can start looking at maybe moving into pace groups, upping the mileage, looking at times. But that just depends, because some people get injured quickly too, and this is a good program for them also. So just remember that the open pace really won't drop too much from what we've been doing. Okay, we really drop the last week is what will happen, and that'll give you enough rest to be ready. Half marathon, you see here, we're still chugging away, but we're dropping our mileage a little bit, down to 30. We were at 40 for our high points, but now we're down to 30. And if you think of that, that's a 25% decrease in your mileage. That is significant. Okay, that's why when people seem to confuse a little bit with the taper, some people think it's supposed to be an all-out just rest, and it's not. You have to find a balance between staying fit, maintaining fitness, and not overdoing it, and getting that rest you need for the race. Okay. And as I've always told all of my athletes through all the years of coaching, there's not a lot I'm going to be able to do for you the next 2 weeks. There's not a lot of, I don't have a magical workout all of a sudden. Okay. What we want to do these 2 weeks is not do anything stupid. We don't want to get you hurt. We don't want to do anything to derail your training. So that's why you have to be kind of smart about what you do, because there are two ways. Sometimes people do two things that are big mistakes. One, they try to make up for what they couldn't get done earlier in the training. So they're feeling better. They're feeling good. So then they start hammering, the 12 by 400s. It becomes a race to them. So the 400 is just, they're gunning and gunning and gunning each 400 and hammering them way beyond their pace. And then they pop a hamstring or something, or tweak a muscle. And then they're done for like 3 or 4 days. So that's what I'm talking about. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, there are people who get too worried that they have to rest, and then they begin to cut out workouts. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And there is an idea that when you do get fatigued, you probably should take a rest day. But then there's the idea that people begin to get worried, and then they begin to take off more rest than they really should be. So then that fitness does begin to dip just a bit. I mean, in 2 weeks, you're not going to lose a ton, but you want to be in the best possible shape you can for the race. So basically, what I'm trying to say overall is trust the training, follow the plan, don't get crazy on paces. There's nothing that you're going to do this week and next week to do anything significant to your fitness. We want to maintain the fitness without getting injured. Okay, so that's why these workouts are light, quick. They're designed to keep you mentally sharp, positive confidence boosters, because now you're not trudging through a 15-mile run that has 10 miles in the middle or something at tempo, or you're not doing 3 by 2 miles on the track, or 2 by 2 miles, whatever we were doing. Not doing those hard grinding workouts. These are nice quick ones that are going to hopefully get some spring in your step and give you that confidence boost that you need. Okay, so that's what we're going to do these next 2 weeks. And I'm going to have all of this in the email I sent out tonight, but I like to go over it with you guys a little bit more, because I don't get any one-on-one time at the track or at the long runs to talk to people or to converse with you. So I like to make sure you understand what you're doing for these next 2 weeks. Okay. Now, like I said, our taper, my taper, is a little more modest than maybe some others, but it will still get us there rested and ready to go. So just trust what we're doing and hang on there. We got 2 weeks. We're going to get this through. Now, there's a couple other things that first-time marathoners or people who don't know a ton of information begin to ask their friends, what should I do this? What should I do that? What's this? What's that? I'm going to try to help you with some of those things. One big thing is carb loading. People talk about carb loading all the time. Now, I've researched it numerous times, and I keep coming to the same conclusion, which is carb loading was popular back in the 70s and a lot of people in the 80s, a lot of people would deplete themselves of carbs, train that way, no carbs, very little carbs, train. Body would start to adapt to that. And then the last, part of their training cycle, a week or two or whatever, they would start taking in a lot more carbs. They start going carb crazy, so to speak, carb loading. And so they would get that refreshed feeling, that energetic feeling, and all of that comes with all of a sudden taking in a bunch of carbs, cutting back miles, and you were training with that carb depletion going on for so long that it's like a new experience. Problem is all the training before that. When you're depleted with those carbs and trying to train, they have gone back and looked at people's workouts and studied them and said they probably could have worked out a lot better and done a lot more productive workouts if they had a steady carb diet. If they were taking in normal amounts of carbs, their workouts would have been better, and that would have correlated into a faster race time. They're saying is that is a much better way to approach it than to try to just not eat carbs, then jump on a bunch of carbs. And if you do, you should be doing about 50% right now while you guys are training for marathon and halves. You should be doing about a 50% carb intake. Now, what a nice balance is, what I found reading a couple articles, I read I think one last year, I think I read one recently 6 months ago, a 70% increase of your carbs in the last 3 to 4 days does help give you that little bit of, let's say, glycogen stores for that race. If you just bump up that carb intake a little bit more the last 3 to 4 days, that will help get you some of that extra glycogen storage you need. And that's another reason why you see this Saturday, we have a fairly, not a big long run, but it's not cut that much because we want to stimulate that glycogen store. We want to go into those glycogen stores. We want to get rid of that because they said that stimulates that to take in more glycogen next week when you do that. It says it helps stimulate that ability. I'm not a scientist, not a medical doctor at all, but those are the articles I've been reading. So if you think you got to be taking in tons of carbs, don't worry. Keep on your steady carb intake to keep your training going and to stay healthy. And then that last 3 to 4 days, you want to maybe boost it up just a little bit. But don't go crazy, just a little bit. You don't want to feel sluggish and heavy either. Okay? And that's just something to think about in your mind because that's a big thing I hear people are now beginning to talk about in marathon training, carb loading. And anything just eating a big carb dinner the night before, that's carb loading. There's a lot more to that. That's kind of what I'm talking about, is that 3 to 4 days, just increasing it just a little bit to that 50, from a 50% to about a 70% carb intake that you're doing. And that long run this week will help that stimulate some of that storage, let's say, to get the glycogen in there. Okay? And that'll be in the email too. All that's in there. So make a concerted effort when we get to that race week. Not this week so much, but next week, start thinking about that a little bit more, be a little bit more deliberate on your carb intake when you get to around Wednesday or so, Wednesday, Thursday, because that will definitely help. Now, one other huge topic that they always talk about, a lot of our runners, is banking time. Okay. I'm also the Glass City Marathon pacing coordinator. So I get all the race pacers for the different times that people want to run for the half and full. And one thing I harp on all of our race pacers is do not bank time. And what that means is going out faster than your race pace, because you feel good. It's the beginning of the race. You want to get some of that quickness going and bank time. So if your pace average is going to be 9 minutes and you go out and run the first half marathon at 8:45, you've banked, almost 4 minutes of time, technically, over 4 minutes of time throughout that. You have an extra 4 minutes there added on. Problem is, it usually doesn't end the way you want it to. Okay, that's halfway through the race. You still got another 13 miles to go. And once you begin to really feel that fatigue, it extrapolates pretty severely if you've gone out too fast. You can get 4 minutes in 1 mile if you're really hurting. I've seen some marathoners, and those wheels come off bad. So you could be down to a walk the last couple miles if you go out too hard. So the predicting thing is to be conservative. If anything, be a little slower on your first few miles and find that rhythm you need to get to your pace. So if anything, let's go back to 9 minute pace. I would rather see someone be 9:15 than 8:45 the first 5K of a race, of a marathon or half. I'd rather see that 15-second a little slower and then find that 9 minute rhythm and really get working on it, because there is nothing more confident boosting for you when you get to mile 10 in your half marathon and you're passing people, or you get to mile 20 in that marathon in the last 10K and you're just whipping by people. The funny thing is, you're probably not going any faster. You are maintaining a pace. Everybody else is slowing down rapidly. And you, if you are maintaining a consistent pace, slowing up here and there, but still a decent pace, you'll be breezing by these people. And it's a huge mental boost for you to be going by people in a race. When people are going by you in the last few miles of that marathon or half marathon, it is not a fun feeling. Okay, because now you're, that negative thought creeps into your head. I'm dying here. How am I going to make this? All of those thoughts start going through your head. But passing people, that puts the positive thoughts there. So definitely, banking time is not something I would recommend. Look at world records. I think it's like 85% or something. World records are set at negative splits. They start out fairly even. They get faster as the race goes on. That's taking out Steve Prefontaine from the whole equation, because he never did that. He would go out as fast as he could until someone died. But the banking time is like almost a myth. I've rarely seen it happen in a long distance race. for anyone to be able to go out pretty quick in the early stages of a half or a full and then maintain that or hold their normal pace. They usually just go the other way. They get slower and then they get way slower. Okay. So if people have talked to you about banking time, if it's been mentioned to you, I'd stay away from that. Okay. If you start out conservatively, you're mentally sharp, you feel better because you're controlling what you can do. You know, you're like, oh yeah, 9:15. Let's see if I can take it down a little more. You feel that you're in control of the race. You're going out in 8:45 and you're like, oh, that was a 9:05. I can't. And then you try to get faster and you're still 9:05 or 9:10. You're no longer in control of your own race. You're losing control. So the more you can control what you're doing on your pace, the better off you're going to be as the race progresses. Okay. So definitely, I'm completely against banking time. All right. So if that was something that was going through your head, I would try to figure out a better strategy than that because you don't want to rely on. I hope I stay. I hope I don't die out in the end. You don't want to rely on that. Okay. So that's a big one on that, and you can read through that in the email too. And the last thing, one thing you can't control is the weather. All right. Class City Marathon, there have been days where it's been a wind coming right out of the east, and you're heading down. Used to be River Road, and you would hit all that wind just coming down River Road and Broadway into downtown Toledo. There are all kinds of weather. There's rain one year. It was a 40-degree rain for the entire race. So please be prepared for any weather and adjust your racing plan accordingly. So if you were going to run 9-minute pace and you get up on April 25th and the weather, or you find out the weather is going to be like 60 degrees at the start of the race and 70 to 75 degrees like we've been having the last couple of days, 9-minute pace probably won't be in the cards. You're going to have to adjust maybe a little slower. Same with you got a torrent, if it's just raining and 40 degrees, you might have to reevaluate your pace. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just something happens with extreme conditions. Obviously if it's a little warm or if it's a little rainy or something, a little breezy, you can still, go after that time. But we're talking if it gets to be pretty extreme, okay, that you have to probably consider adjusting your race goals. All right, especially heat, because we've been having some warm days in here, and that makes me a little nervous for this. So make sure you're staying hydrated. Okay, keep on the liquids. Know your fueling program for the race. Know what you're doing, because you don't want to go in there trying to guess what you're doing. A bunch of friends of mine that are running this race are already planning to have family members in different spots with their hydration and nutrition. But they live in the area, so it's a little bit easier for them. If you don't live in the area, it's obviously not as easy because you don't know where to go or where to get around at. But that's something to think about too. Those are definite things that'll control, help you get your race under control. So that's one thing less you have to worry about. Okay. Anything else, you guys? You guys have questions? It's been yammering on for about 20 minutes. I don't want to take up all of the time. Any questions before the race, this week, next week, what have you? I know we're getting kind of towards the end here. There's not a lot to really talk about. I'm trying to cover everything for the taper. The workouts are pretty straightforward now. We're kind of winding down here, which is it's always a fun time and a nervous time because 2 weeks left. It's going to be here before we know it. Okay, and the weather looks pretty more seasonable around this area for this week, 50s and 60s, which is perfect running weather for most of us. So we should be good there. Okay, no extremes again. But if you do have any questions, especially about nutrition in the race, fueling in the race, preparing for the race, any other little things that you were wondering about that I didn't cover, by all means, let me know. Okay, because I want to make sure everybody has all the information before they get into that. Okay.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, Renee.
Hey, I got a question. This is Renee.
Yeah.
So logistically, what about what do you recommend? So I ran the half in 2018, and I spent probably a good half hour trying to find a place to park. So, which made me very, very close to missing the start.
Right.
What's your advice on logistics of getting there, parking and whatnot? Any tips?
That is going to be an interesting question that I was thinking about like last week at this time because the change of the course, the change of the start lines because of COVID and all this other little things, they are still tinkering with little parts of it, and they're supposed to have all of this nailed down this week. So this is something that is a major issue because I'm the same way. I get too stressed if I have to sit here and can't get to a parking space or can't find where I'm supposed to go in that the morning of a race. So what I am going to do is I'm going to try to figure out what streets are going to get closed, when they're going to get closed, and hopefully give you guys, especially some of you coming from out of town, where you can park. I know the best place, easiest place used to be the Rocket Hall parking lot on the corner of Door and Secor because it's a massive parking lot, plenty of room for any cars. It's not too far from the start, like maybe a half mile. So you could kind of, just jog over there and then be there if you took everything with you. But now kind of looking at the new starting lines and seeing what they're doing, what streets are closing off when, now we got to be a little bit more, we got to look at it a little closer. So I do plan to look into that. And I want to make sure you guys are a little bit better off. Let's say when you get there, I'm not going to be able to give you something foolproof because I still, when I go there, I have a pass. So I still have problems getting in with a pass, trying to find a spot sometimes. So it can be a bit of a cluster, but I'm hoping this year with the less amount of people participating because of COVID and the idea that they're trying to keep people away from the start finish because of COVID, I'm hoping that there's going to be a lot more spots and a lot more areas to go. And so what I'll do is in the next week, so by next Wednesday, I'll have some tips for you. And if I can get a map up, I'll try to get a map for you and show you some areas where you can park. Would that work? Hoping that work. That'll work. I think that'll be better.
Thank you.
Because I'm going to try to share that with the whole MIT too. So then we get everybody there in a safe manner, some areas that people can park at. So I'll look into that for you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. I just want to make sure I have all the information from Clint, the race director, when I do that. I don't want to give you bad info. So I'm going to wait till towards the end of next week. All right. And then they should have it nailed down. That's a good question. That's a really good question. Because I'm the same way. I get really stressed with that. Anything else? Okay. So this week, keep it going. Keep the training going. All of you are doing great. I've been looking in on a lot. Obviously I try to get to your 2 workouts in the long run, just to see how things are going. Most are doing really well. You're blasted through this. I know Dee's been real busy at the store. She's been popping in and out when she can on some of your guys' training. And if you ever, anyone in any Findlay here, wherever, if you need help with anything, don't hesitate to email me either. Because I know they're real busy in the store the last couple of weeks. Dee said she was having a hard time trying to do both, but I can always be there too. So don't ever hesitate to get some help from me too. But yeah, this week will be 12 400s, repetition pace. Remember, nice and quick, 2 minutes rest. Make these rests active, okay? Don't stand there and let that blood pool up. Move around, shuffle, jog, walk. I prefer you do these on a start, stop type of thing. I know some of you have been doing these on runs, and that's okay. But for repetition pace, you're going to go so quick. I prefer you like really stop and kind of shuffle or jog or like even walk for that 2 minutes to kind of get your breath back so you can do another quality 400. Because these are about quality now. Each 400 you want to get at a nice crisp pace, okay? You don't want to do it like during a 5 mile run and just throwing in 400 after 400 after 400 and then slowing your run down to a jog for that 2 minutes. Because those 400s aren't going to get very fast. You're going to get tired quickly. So it's a little better when you do it more of a stop-start like a track workout, like you're on a track. So that's what I would recommend for that in the 60 seconds what you're going to do in the last week, those 200s. And we'll talk about that too. I'll talk about that too in the email a little bit. But then the rest is, little short tempo for everybody on the last week and a little fartlek this week. Pretty mild fartlek, 4 on, 1 off. You'll either do 4 miles or 5 miles, depending if you're a full or half marathon, and that's 7 miles or 8 miles for that. And then our open pace group, they'll be doing a 60-minute run. So one more kind of decent long run plus the weekend one. Okay? So that's how these weeks will roll out. It shouldn't be hard. All right, guys, ladies, everybody? All right. So have a good week of training. Any questions, again, let me know. We'll be back Wednesday, and that'll be good because that'll be right before packet pickup too. So we can kind of talk about any of that stuff, logistics. I'll try to get some, questions too about packet pickup that you might have. I'll try to have some answers if there are any out there. familiarize myself a little bit more with it. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for a Sunday. Have a good rest of your evening. And
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys. You guys are doing great. Keep it up. We will be at it next Wednesday. I will see you Wednesday, the 21st, back here on Zoom. All right. Anything then, let me know.
Thanks, Bob.
See you guys.